Beloved brothers, assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasul. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to be here together this afternoon and this weekend. And again, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward each.
Hi,
my name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
For every step that you took and every penny that you spent in order to get here, every second that you're spending in Allah's house trying to learn His way and do His will. On that day, it just says in Surah Kaf, He said everything is being recorded. And in one verse it says, what kind of book is this? It doesn't leave out anything, small or great. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify us and help us become better servants of Him, because we're doing this for His glorification, for His exaltation, and for His commemoration. And so we thank you, my beloved brother, Honorable Imams, for your sacrifice. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to bless you and your family who you sacrificed for being here, and alhamdulillah, in your community. At this particular time, we're going to move into another one of the responsibilities and duties of an imam. And we changed the schedule a little bit. Normally, we would have the virtues first and then Juma'ah second. But in order to allow time for Imam Salatul Muhammad to do his full presentation, we switched things around. So now we're going to go circle back and have Imam Kashif Abdul-Karim do the essentials of Juma'ah. And he did this when we were in North Carolina. So it's going to be pretty much accelerated in terms of the rate at which he's going to be moving. And so we ask that you hold off any questions like you did before until the end of both presentations. After Imam Kashif does his presentation, then we have the honor and pleasure of having Dr. Hameed El-Amin, who will be talking about a clearinghouse concept for our shared freedom space. This has to do with education. And then we'll conclude this session with Imam Kashif coming back and talking about reimaging the gems of the past for a modern generation. And at the end of that third presentation is when, if time permits, we'll have an opportunity to ask whatever questions you may have. So in the course of these three presentations then, write down whatever questions you have, and inshallah, at the very end of the third one, you'll get an opportunity to ask them if time permits. So without any further ado, we're going to present Imam Kashif Abdul-Karim. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, I was told that I have to do this presentation that was written an hour and 30 minutes, inshallah. So we're going to move quickly, inshallah. With Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, all the praise is due to Allah. We turn to Him seeking assistance, we turn to Him seeking forgiveness. We turn to Him seeking refuge, protection, and guardianship from the evil that comes from within our own souls. We recognize that Allah is the one who is best able to guide, and with His guidance we have no guidance at all. And recognize that we're going off the path of good. It's only Allah who will turn us back to the way that is right. We've been doing this openly without any hesitation, reservation, frustration. There is no God worthy of worship but the one God, Allah. And we bear witness of Muhammad, of whom the Quran was revealed over 14 centuries ago, as Allah's last prophet, His messenger, and the universal liberator for all of mankind. Brothers that are present with us today, we know as Imams that the primary goal for every Imam is to perform or facilitate the Juma'ah service at least once a week for the community they serve. The method in which this is performed is often debated among the Muslim community. The community of Muhammad needs to have a framework to solidify the methodology of performing the Juma'ah, which agrees with the Quran, the Uswa of the Prophet, and the Tafsir of Imam Muhammad. We're unique in our approach, our inclusivity of genders, attending, and the language in which we use. This workshop does not serve as a means for me to instruct you how to do the Juma'ah. Let me make that very clear to you. You guys all know how to do the Juma'ah. You do the Juma'ah every week. It's not my job here to instruct you how to do the Juma'ah, but to establish a collective framework, way for us to function within. What's the goals for us today? The goal is for us to talk about attendance. The attendance, of course, we understand is fard, right? Juma'ah is requiring for all Muslims. We're going to talk about gender equity in terms of how it relates to Juma'ah. We're going to talk about gender relationship as it relates to our masjid structure. Who should lead the Juma'ah? What is the Imam, and who is the Imam, and what is the criteria for the Imam in our community? What is the format for Juma'ah, Salatul Juma'ah? What is the body of the first part of the khutbah? What is the strategy of the khutbah? What is the methodology, and what are the do's and don'ts of the Salatul Juma'ah? What is the conclusion of the first part of the khutbah? What is the opening of the second part of the khutbah? What is the purpose of the second part of the khutbah? And what is the closing dua? And what are the things that invalidate the Juma'ah, the Salatul Juma'ah? These are the things that we should do. First of all, let's talk about what is the fard requirements of the attendance. First of all, we know the commandment that Allah gives them to him. Allah says, "Oh, you who believe, when the call is proclaimed, when the commandment is made, to prayer on Friday, the day of assembly, hasten earnestly to the remembrance of Allah, and leave all business and traffic. That is best for you if you but knew." We all know that. The scholars are all in agreement that Jumu'ah prayer is obligatory. It is fard. We can argue back and forth whether it's fard or wajib. We don't want to get into that. Imam Muhammad simply says it's obligatory. We don't need to argue over it's fard or wajib. We can get into it later. But it's obligatory, except for who? Women, slaves, children, and the sick. This means they may pray for rakas. 4 rakas of door in place, and they can do it in their homes. That's what it says. This is the proof of that. We find it in the hadith that it says, Jumu'ah is a duty that is required of every Muslim and congregation except 4. A slave, a woman, a child, or one who is sick. This is the hadith. You have it in your handouts, so we have to go quick. So if we understand this in modern day terms, we can break it down so we can understand it. Slaves. What is slaves in our terminology so we can understand it? Slaves are understood to be those who are incarcerated, those who do not have rights, those who can't control their movements, inmates, institutions, right? Those who are in shelters. These people do not have obligations to do Jumu'ah. Jumu'ah is not obligatory on them. The laws make it obligatory on them. The law of the land, judges make Jumu'ah obligatory on them. But Allah does not make it obligatory on them. Children are not obligatory on them to go to Jumu'ah until they reach a certain age. But when they reach a certain age and they are above puberty, we should be working on getting older kids to come to Jumu'ah. We should be finding ways to get them passes and permission slips and making it possible for them to come to Jumu'ah. If we're not doing that in our community, we should be wondering, well, why aren't our kids at our masjids? We're not even working on getting them exemptions and making exemptions for them to even come to Jumu'ah. I don't know, on these particular days, we should be thinking about that. We should be developing letters and give an explanation for our kids to come to school. The sick also includes the sick in mind, those who are insane. We should be thinking about the elderly, senior citizens, the pioneers with disabilities, those who can't walk, who are in breathing machines, etc. Jumu'ah is also exempted for these who are considered the sick, slaves, children, and sick. And then it also mentions women. Now, it's interesting that when we talk about the slaves, the children, the sick, we go way out our way to make sure that we can do everything possible to get these other people to come to Jumu'ah. We break our backs. We do everything we can, create laws, everything we can to get them to Jumu'ah, when Allah made it a mercy for them to be able to come. But for women, we try everything we can, well, not us, but everybody else. We do everything we can to make them not able to come, although Allah made it a mercy for them. Allah says Allah doesn't want to put you into difficulties. Gender equity, female attendance in the masjid. Overall, 60% of attendees in immigrant masjids. That's all that come to Juma'ah in immigrant masjids, only 16%. If you took all of the masjids in America, they only have 16% of women attending their masjids, right? In African American masjids, it's about 23% that attend their masjids on Friday, okay? But if you look at all of the masjids in America, all of them in America together, 66% of masjids in America still got dividers in their masjids, preventing women from even being able to see the imam, have access to the imam, have access to their community that they serve. 66%. Now you can see the proof of this in the statistics that have been put together by ISNA and ICNA and all these groups. They've done the surveys of their own communities. And this hasn't changed in the past decade. It's been that way. And you can see these statistics vary by ethnicity groups. And the only people that they found that differ in the way that they treat their women in their communities is who? Us. We only have 10% of our community, according to their statistics, that use dividers. And I really think the people in our community use dividers. They'll use them to divide our women, like, so they can't see our imam, etc. They might use dividers like sideways in the community, so women are on that side, men on that side, but they can still see the imam. I think that might be the way they use the dividers, etc. Let's look at that. So the question is, should women attend Juma'ah? Right? Should they? Right? Well, the reasons why a lot of immigrants and other people say they should attend Juma'ah is they use these particular hadith. Juma'ah is a duty that is required of every Muslim in congregation, except for a slave, a woman, a child, and a person of sick. This is the hadith they use. They also use, do not prevent your women from going to the mosque, although their house are better for them. This is what they use. Those are the two hadith they use. That's the root of the problem. That's the hadith they use. But they forget, as we said earlier, these are a mercy that Allah gives. If they go to Juma'ah, we should realize that it's a victory for them to be able to attend. It should be looked at as a victory, that we've been successful, that they've been able to achieve whatever obstacles they put in place for them to be attend. The reason why women didn't go to the mosque before was because of safe issues that got in the way. When you look at what happened to Umar, we look at this particular hadith in Sahih Bukhari. One of the wives of Umar ibn al-Khattab used to offer the Fajr and the Isha prayer in congregation in the mosque. She was asked why she had come out of prayer, as she knew that Umar disliked it, and he had great God. And she replied, "What prevents him from stopping me from this act of worship?" The other replied, "The statement of Allah's apostle, peace be upon him, did not prohibit Allah's women's service from going to Allah's mosque, prevents them." So there is this hadith. He clearly said the reason why he doesn't stop his wife from going to the masjid, because Allah's messenger clearly said, do not prevent your women from going to the mosque. So this hadith that is being given here was considered to be a not legitimate hadith because it was not considered valid. It was not considered valid because it was in contradiction to the example and the works and the sayings of the early caliphs, of what they were actually practicing. So the hadith that they use as a reason is no longer good. We see also that the Prophet gave examples of back lines and front lines, and the women using these particular, the way that they saw. So these examples show that there was proofs that women were in congregation or in the same room as men also. We see also that women were, the Prophet used to shorten his prayers when he used to hear the women and the babies crying inside of the same room during the time period he made prayers. So we know that the women were in the same room of the Prophet during a particular time. I'm speeding because we have to. What did Imam Muhammad say about this himself directly? He said, although women are not obligated to perform the daily congregational prayers in the masjid, this is from Prayer Now Islam. If we don't have this, we should get it, right? He said, although women are not obligated to perform the daily congregational prayers in the masjid, They are forbidden to do so, and they are not forbidden to do so, and they will greatly benefit by participating in them whenever possible. Because of the protection of women in certain Muslim countries, some people have questioned their right to attend the masjid for prayer services. During the lifetime of Prophet Muhammad, women freely participated in religious services. It was reported that Prophet Muhammad said, "If the wife of any one of you asks permission to go to the masjid, do not forbid her." Prophet Muhammad also told his followers, "Don't prevent the female slaves of Allah from attending the masjid." So again, it's very clear that they should go. So these are the two extremes that we find existing, even within our community and other places. The first opinion is that Juma'ah should be obligatory for women who can make it. People want to say, well, women, they gotta go to Juma'ah. That's an extreme. The other extreme is that we should obligate our women to stay at home. That's the other extreme. Two extreme. They're obligated to go, and they're obligated to stay at home. What's the balanced approach? Attendance for women is optional. And then how should we present it? Women should exercise their best option. Right? And what's the best option? If they're able to go to Juma'ah, they should go to Juma'ah. They should exercise their best mercy. Right? Just like we do for the slave, just like we do for the children, just like we do for the sick. If they're able, if it's available to them, they should go. Just like the inmate, right? The man should go to Juma'ah. We tell the inmate, why aren't you going to Juma'ah? You're able, go, right? Just like the kid, we made it possible for you to go, right? We made all these things available for you online, etc. Go, participate, go. We did all this work for you to be able to go. We made it available, go. Exercise your best option. Separation of genders, we don't do any of this stuff, right? We're getting trying to go by it. Imam Muhammad said, the fact that women would stand behind men is in no way meant to imply an inferior status. The rule was created to prevent distractions, which could distract from the performance and effectiveness of the prayer service. No woman, man, or woman is allowed to touch the body of a member of the opposite sex in prayer. If men and women stand side by side in prayer, they cannot possibly avoid touching each other. Furthermore, if a woman is praying in front of or beside a man, it is very likely that some part of her body may become uncovered in the course of changing positions. In such a circumstance, the man may observe the exposed part of the woman's body, causing embarrassment to both, and creating a distraction that could possibly lead to evil thoughts. To help the followers concentrate their thoughts on prayer to Allah, the Most High, Al-Islam has ordained separate sections for men and women. That's the reasoning clearly by Imam Muhammad from Prayer.Islam, page 140. So why have this discussion with us as Imams? Why the discussion? We are in the best position. We look at everything that's going on in the world, what other people are doing. We are in the best position to attract and nurture this particular population of women in the world, in the community. Not only African American women, but immigrant women, etc. We can attract this population because we are saying we can give you your gender rights. We can you should bring your children, this population. These women bring their young people. They bring their children. They're our best teachers. They're our best organizers, etc. We should be bringing them into our masjids. We can give them opportunities. We can do this. We can change our Juma'ahs. We can orchestrate our thoughts. We can teach them. Look, we have in our community, there are journalists, there are educators, there are lawyers, etc. We do this in our community. We need to propagate this language in our Juma'ahs, etc. Attract them, teach them, bring them in here. We're already doing it, but we need to amplify it. Yes. Amplify it. We're doing it. Everybody else, the survey is already showing that we're the best at it. Let's make it clear to the world, to the women out there, we want them here. We have already 25% of the women. Let's take that up to 35, 45, 50% of the people coming into our community, of the women. Let them bring their children, let them bring their young people. Let's get out of this. We don't want crying babies. Let's get our young people, let's get them here. Let them bring them, let them come. Okay, let's go on. Jum'ah summary. We said it again. Jum'ah Safar. We said that clearly from the Quran, which so you believe. When the call is proclaimed for prayer on Friday, the day of assembly, hasten is a commandment, earnestly to the remembrance of Allah, and leave all business and traffic that is best for you if you belong to them. So we know that Juma'ah is affirmed. It's obligatory except for the 4 that we said. But there's also other times when Juma'ah is not obligatory. The other times when it's not obligatory is also when there's also bad weather. If there's a hurricane, right? Houston, Texas, if I hear Florida, right? You can't get to Juma'ah. There's bad weather. Allah don't want you to kill yourself getting to Juma'ah, right? He provides the mercy, right? Bad rain, torrential storms, etc., right? If you're traveling and there's no place to make Juma'ah, right? You can't find a place to make Juma'ah. The logic is that you can't make Juma'ah, right? And if you're sick or you're ill, then you can't make Juma'ah, right? But because we're Imams, you know that you can't cancel Juma'ah either. You can't, if you're the Imam, somebody might show up in your masjid, right? You can't just cancel Juma'ah, because someone might show up. There's a hurricane, but someone might show up in your masjid. And the first thing they're going to say is, we're here for Juma'ah, brother man, where you at? Right? So what are you going to say? You're going to say, well, brother, are there 2 more people there? If there's 2 more people there, you lead Juma'ah. You need to step up and lead Juma'ah today. Alhamdulillah, I can't make it. I can't get there. You have to step up and be the Imam today and lead the Juma'ah, right? We have to get people in the frame of mind that they need to step up and lead the Juma'ah if we can't get there. And this is the frame of mind that we got to have. People have to be able to step up. If we can't be there, they have to step up in that kind of situation like that and lead. We have to remember that the Juma'ah is the opportunity for us to, as a community, to motivate the people, galvanize the people, educate the community, and establish a bond of community life. It's the most important activity for the Islamic community throughout the whole entire week. And the khutbah is designed as the most important part. It's a tool for educating, a tool for building a bond for the community life, for uniting the community and to give hope for the community, a time to guide the community and improve the quality of the community and to propagate Islam at this particular time, right? Now, this should be done by who? By you, the Imam. Now, this information is put together from various texts in our community about what the Imam is, who we are, from different resources. It says the Imam. The Imam is responsible for every person praying behind him. The Imam, if he makes a mistake, he's responsible for his mistake and all of those who follows him. If he misleads or uses the khutbah for the wrong purpose, he will be responsible for his action and all those who follow him. The Imam dress should be modest, not tight, clean, and humble. The Imam should have read the Quran, understood it well, and continues to make serious efforts to understand it further and to memorize as much as possible of it. Remember that the one who is most qualified to lead it is the one who understands the Quran and who lives according to it. The Imam should be the example and the model for the community, the heart of the community, and the tongue of the community. He should be able to listen to the community, express and articulate his pains, his aspirations, and his dreams. The successful Imam is the one who is optimistic and sound mind, one who is able to paint an image of the future, and one who can capture the imagination of the congregation in order to prove that image all the way into its reality. That is who you are. That is who we should be, okay? From our collection of our different places that we looked at in our community to find out what did Imam Muhammad say? The congregation of prayer must be led by an Imam because the Imam follows the footsteps of Prophet Muhammad. He must be chosen with care. According to tradition, he must be an adult male, the most God-conscious among the people, and the most knowledgeable and understanding of the Holy Quran and the Hadith. He must teach the message of the Holy Quran and Hadith, and he must practice what he teaches. That some persons are equal in their qualities, the most knowledgeable in the law of Al-Islam should be selected. If some are equal in these, the one selected should be the eldest among those who meet the above qualities and qualifications. The Imam should be a person who is beloved and respected by the people, who is free of any repulsive disease, who does not commit any major sins, and whose morals are the best among the people. He must be compassionate, sympathetic person, and he should be not duly prolong the prayer service. And he should not unduly prolong the prayer service. Okay. And he's telling me that I'm going too long. We didn't get to the point. Okay. All right, let me just say this one other point. 5 minutes? Okay. I'm really going to go Speedy Gonzalez. Okay. All right. Imam Muhammad said this. Okay, he said, pray as you see me pray. Imam Muhammad will call this often into the reference of a prophet. So, we know that when we begin our khutbahs, we always begin with a khutbah hajjah. We say this, or we should say this beginning of a khutbah. We should glorify Allah in a particular way when we begin our khutbah. All the praises to Allah, return of sickness, return of forgiveness, etc. We should say this when we begin our khutbah. This is the standard thing we should say. A lot of times we don't. We just start a khutbah, assalamu alaikum, and the people greet us and their voice are our prayer. Because the people shouldn't be talking to us. But we say assalamu alaikum. People say alaikum assalam, and we mess up our khutbah. But, you know, we do that. We should start off by giving the glorification to Allah in the beginning, right? But, this is my question. Imam Muhammad would say, pray the way you see me pray. He would say, Prophet Muhammad would say, Imam Muhammad would say, Prophet Muhammad would say, pray as you see me pray. Now, these are the questions. Imam Muhammad was a special man, right? He was a special man. So, Imam Muhammad, we would travel 12 hours to go hear Imam Muhammad give a khutbah, a Juma'ah. Imam Muhammad would give a khutbah, Juma'ah, for 2 hours, right? Now, as an Imam, when I come back to my masjid and give a khutbah for 2 hours, because Imam Muhammad gave a khutbah for 2 hours, because Imam Muhammad prayed that way. Imam Muhammad would give a khutbah that would be talking about the whole weekend activities and the strategies of the weekend activities. And he would give different glorification and different ayahs and different presentations, etc. In his presentations that were different from the way that the Prophet did it. Because those are the parameters that Imam Muhammad established. So Imam Muhammad would say, the Prophet said, pray as you see me pray. And then we would come back and we would do things sometimes, and some people would just read the centerfold that Imam Muhammad gave, and that would be it. So, how do we do and follow the Juma'ah? How do we start the Juma'ah? We have to figure a way to be balanced. We have to figure out a way to be balanced. We have to follow the format that was given to us by Prophet Muhammad, the example that Prophet Muhammad established, then use the Sunnah and the Uswa of Prophet Muhammad, and then use the logic that Imam Muhammad established to figure out how we're going to do and process those things, okay? And quite often, we have to work, as the brother was saying, within the parameters of our community and look at our community and our audience to figure out how we're going to make adjustments to deal with their particular needs. We have to do that. And we're going to be doing that. We do that all throughout these things. These are 3 ayahs that we're supposed to be open up with when we begin our Juma'ah. We're supposed to begin the first part of the Juma'ah by making sure we glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and use bullet points and write out our khutbah and read them if necessary, but use not in a monotone voice, use techniques and strategies. Have a strategy for using your khutbah. You want to admonish the people, or you want to use reminders, you want to speak to your audience, know your audience, have a strategy behind what you do. Conclude the first part of your khutbah, sit down, use a short dua. Have a dua when you're doing, do a short supplication, and do particular things. I'm rushing, I'm sorry. The second part of your khutbah, you stand back up, you do a glorification to Allah again, say a particular praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do another glorification to Allah, and when you begin that second part, again, try to do a summary, try to put together your thoughts and ideas, to a conclusion, etc. Here with the closing dua, I included in your handouts a bunch of duas that we can look to memorize, to learn, etc., to strategize, etc., to do that. There are particular in your handouts that you have. There are a bunch of do's that we should always do in our cookbooks, things that we should always do, right? And there are certain things that we should never do. We should never do. We shouldn't beat people up from the rostrum. We shouldn't be talking about people. We shouldn't be practicing self-interest. Never think to isolate your community. Never single out other people in your community. Never be self-serving. Never be negative. Never shout at people. Don't make your cookbook long. Prepare your cookbook. Don't just shoot from the hip. Take time. There are a lot of things here. And there's other things that Imam Muhammad put in too about things that invalidate your cookbook. It's in your handout, inshallah. I got it in. Beautiful. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
So, alhamdulillah, these are action-packed presentations, and because of time, we're trying to get so many things in, we have to kind of abbreviate. So, thank you so much, Imam Kashif, for putting Takbir! I strongly encourage you to look at the balance of this presentation, because I'm sure you'll find in there some information that will be very useful. And so inshallah, now we have Dr. Hameed El-Amin, who's going to present to us. And inshallah, so pay particular attention. And then after Dr. El-Amin, Imam Kashif will come back and talk about the gems of the past so that we can benefit from that presentation. So we ask you to shoot for the stars. Dr. El-Amin.
Assalamualaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. I'm already trying to go too fast. We're going to go fast again. Most of what I'm going to share with you I have seen already in this gathering, and that can only be due to Allah's hand on this community and the obligations that have been set out for us. One of our Imams a few months ago on one of his radio shows said that the social scientists were not stepping up to the plate and giving us what we need. And being a social scientist, I was obligated by that to step up to the plate. Education, of course, is an aspect of social science. This work is really centered around leadership and language, and also social organization or institutions, which is the mandate that Imam Muhammad gave us. I see that happening now, as Imam Kashif points out to us all the time, organically. It's happening. One of our Imams, Imam Karim from Birmingham, said that heaven is being on the same page, and that's what I see. And I see it almost every day. I see something that happens that I know is not a consequence of what I've done or what we do. I know that Allah's hand is on us. This particular work is about a model that we came to the conclusion of how to develop it from Imam Muhammad. Looking at it this way, takes us from a reactionary posture where we are reacting to our circumstances and what others do to control our circumstances, to a proactive posture where we can begin to act on our own. When we have our own language, our own insight, our own vision, we can be proactive. We can act before the situation occurs to put in motion what we want for ourselves. That's also related to common sense. There is a certain limitation to common sense. That is what my mother used to always remind us, something that God gave us, and she would always remind me that I didn't have it. But we can, most of the time, only react out of common sense. Our intellect allows us to act, to be proactive. We have more than that as well for our God. It's not just our intellect. That's the limitation of the world we live in. We have the haq al-yaqeen. We have the truth of assured certainty. I came to the conclusion of how to look at this approach, what we call a clearinghouse, from several things that I've learned over the last few years. I should also mention that the work that we're summarizing here is the work of many people and many communities. Many of you are sitting here in this room, and you may not know when I have listened to your program online or watched, read your Facebook post, but I learned from those things. I think we understand the value of that already in terms of sharing and growing. One of the things that we recognized recently, and I'm sure you'll recognize it clearly when you think about it, is that we have moved from a reactionary posture of being instructed in language use to constructing language. That comes from several things that Imam Muhammad has left us. In fact, explicit instructions about using Quranic logic, the logic of Quranic grammar to inform all of our concepts. So that sort of speaks for itself. Because of Allah's mercy, we are now beginning to see unified logic in the language that we use in education. Mathematics, written and spoken words, and the ideas they express, which communicate understanding in every subject area of science. We're beginning to see, because of the light of Al-Quran and what Imam Muhammad has given us as the keys, and what we hear from you, what our teachers share with us, we're beginning to see the unity of language based on Tawheed. The mathematics of creation, which is a lesson that was given to us by Sister Nur Muhammad, who lives in Kansas City, Missouri, gives us a sound approach to every written form of language, whether it's the alphabet, whether it's numbers, and it's connected with a specific verse in the Quran that I'll show you a little bit later. She says that she has identified these 5 forms, and all the other forms in creation are related to those 5 forms. And those 5 forms begin with a line, which is, symbolically speaking, Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad, the way we write one. There's also a parallel we just realized with an approach that's being used by Dr. John Yassin, who's an English professor, that is based on the same logic, that identifies the same kind of unity based on principles of language construction rather than language instruction. You know, when we sit in class, we're given a language to speak. We learn the rules of that language, but that language is conventional. That just means that it was developed and is made for use by human beings. That's no longer true of language if we have the Word of God that's informing our language use and our grammar. We are working on things that we can apply in a classroom that have to do with how we teach reading, writing, and arithmetic based on this one idea that comes from this one concept. We'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. I think we have another presentation on education. And I want to share that with you because it's such a very basic connection. The focus for this idea of a collaborative model of shared vision, free thinking, and individual responsibility came from a charge that Imam Hameed made to us on June 2nd of 2008, when he asked us to work to build an institution that would outlive us all. We have some rudimentary elements of that now, including a charitable foundation, which Dr. Yassin is developing. And also, this model of leadership implies a process by which we can arrive at institution development without handcuffing ourselves or putting ourselves in a straitjacket or locking down the capacity for freedom that we also are charged to respect. On one of the days immediately after Imam Muhammad's passing in September, I called Imam Yahya Abdullah because I was concerned about how we would work without Imam Muhammad's clear vision and his critique. That is, his being able to check behind us with, to check us with what he would share with us. And he very quickly gave me one piece of advice. He said, what you need is a clearinghouse. And so we have followed that advice in developing this model. Now, what is a clearinghouse? Well, Imam Muhammad told us in 1982 at Sadaya to start out with the Quran and then only use the dictionary and to throw out all the other books. And I think that means not only the books of Western science and Western philosophy, I think it means also all the books and the methodology of Eastern thought, including traditional Islamic thought. I think there are pitfalls in both. I think once we position ourselves to share our vision and to progress our vision, in fact, I think we're already there. I just think we have to do a little more sharing of what we already have to see that we have what is superior to both. And I can say with confidence that the world is waiting on that. We're not getting an open testimony to that yet, but we're seeing signs of that. Even interfaith groups who are now stepping out to aid Muslims financially and economically. I can tell you that Shaitan does not want to see that. This is one thing that led us to the confidence in this approach. It was something that Imam Muhammad shared on the first Sunday of August in 2008, just before his passing. It was part of his instructions, and I can't find a video or a record of this. I've asked. But one of the things that he said very clearly speaks to this idea of a clearinghouse. We should come together, which is what we've done here, share what we have, which is what we've done here, then go home and do our work. Having a clearinghouse concept will allow us to do all of that without having undue restrictions on our charge to be responsible in our local communities, without having centralized authority, and without having social hierarchy. I want to try and address some of that too. In fact, that's very explicit in the theme that the conveners have chosen for our work here. Loving, respecting, connecting, and progressing. Here's the definition of a clearinghouse: a central institution for agency for the collection, maintenance, and distribution of materials. All of you do kutbahs. Many of you put them in Word format or some other format. Many of you can use these formats. We have already, many of you are doing the work of academics, and you may not realize that it is superior to academics, the traditional academics. I can see many of you in this room that I know maybe more than half of you. And being an academic, I will say to you that I can take one person of my choosing and three of any others of you in this room at random, and we can go to any of these universities around Massachusetts, Harvard included, and you will find a listening ear, whether they own up to listening to you or not, and I won't open my mouth. And I can also assure you, you can go to almost any department where they study any subject with those 4 or 5 of us, and we would have a sound basis for what we share with them in terms of informing that subject matter. I say that because I want you to have a reference point for the seriousness of the work that we're doing. I will also go anywhere and say to anyone academically, and I have evidence from academics, that Imam Muhammad's commentary, there's so much of it, has eclipsed all of Western philosophy. It is now outmoded. It has now been outdone. It's only up to us to apply it to the work of building institutions that will preserve it and advance it. That is the work of the next generation. And you know, some of you are my age. I don't know if any of you are older, but I'm just very pleased to see some younger faces in here. Just 1 or 2. It doesn't take but 1 or 2. When we started out, it was only 1 or 2. And it's in Allah's hands. This work, the leadership of the Prophet began 1438 years ago. And it's not done. He's still our leader. The Honorable Muhammad and Imam Muhammad gave us over 80 years of work. And I don't know if either one of them saw in any sense the conclusion of what they wanted. I would make an argument that neither of them did. I don't think they even saw in us where at the time that Imam Muhammad passed, where we are now. I think Imam Muhammad would be very pleased at where we are. Here I want to just hint at another method that we don't have time to share that was given to us at Push headquarters, I believe it was 2007. It was a method that Imam Muhammad said was more powerful than what Moses brought down from the mountain. Now I had to go back and I had to find that. I'd forgotten that. And it's a method of word study. All of you, and we have some very serious linguists here. I know them very well. And their work, I'm telling you, it would stand up in any academic institution, sitting right here, the ones that we have. Serious, in-depth, profound insight into language in an academic sense. Here, though, we want to use our common sense because we don't want to get away from that. That's one of the things that the world does. It detaches our intellect from our common sense. That story is in Scripture, and I know some of you can explain that too. It's both the story of Cain and Abel, and culturally it's the story of Harun and Moses. How we misuse language and how we make the mistakes, and we don't want to make the mistakes of the people before us. We'll come back to that maybe. So in English, most of you may know that most of the words come from some other language, and there's usually in every English word 2 words that make up that word. So what would be the words in this, the other words in this word? The parts of it. Well, in, what does that mean? I-N. Inside. Okay, the S-T-I-S-T-O. Stay, state, stop, stick, start, store, staff, stick. When you know that, then you can almost tell what the meaning of the word is without a dictionary. And Imam Muhammad encouraged us to look at the dictionary and his method. They gave us a push headquarters, but then use our common sense rather than take the literal meaning. You know, when we say define, we mean that the meaning that we're giving you is definite. It is not. It's the common usage, which is why language changes all the time. These are profound things that Imam Muhammad has given us the keys to, including in the idea of man needs mind and words make people. Yes. It's very simple. And you still have academics that are having an argument. I'll tell you the name of the argument. It's about the Sophia-Worth hypothesis. It's been around for a very long time. And they're arguing what Imam Muhammad explained just that simply. Words make people. Yes. So the TUT is in tutor, it's in tuition, and it's in some other words. So when we put the parts together, or when we understand the root, and this is a science, it's called etymology, the origin of words. I don't have time to share everything with you, but we're using English as the language of discourse. But we're going to now be able to correct all of what there is in the language of philosophy and science with Quranic logic. Who am I getting that yes from? You can see it, can't you?
Absolutely.
We're going to transform science. This language, you sitting right here, you're going to begin that process you've already begun that process about doing what they've done in academics for the last 500 years. So the STO, you'll find has a common meaning, and it's the one I picked out because it makes the most sense. It just means to fix, to fix. So the TUT is in intuition, tuition, and tutor, which is why when you go to institutions of learning, you pay tuition. You pay tuition to have your intuition developed. That's your natural common sense. That's the aspect that we all have, though Imam Muhammad also makes another assumption. He says not all of us have it in a universal fashion, like Abraham, and you can also relate it to the story of Yusuf, because he represents that level. And he was over the storehouses of knowledge. Yusuf, the manifestation of what is in each of us, that intuitive knowledge, not the intellect. That wasn't over the storehouses. There's a whole lecture on that. I'm sure some of you can give too. So when we break the word down, as I would do it, to fix what we know inside, intuitively. And we're going to come to some ways of knowing that our brother has shared with us a little bit later, and we'll see intuition is one. And what we do as we learn and we experience is we accumulate that, we speak it, which doesn't last, and then we write it down. So that's what we want from you, from your khutbahs. There may be just one thing in your khutbah that someone else will read that will be the key to the puzzle that they're trying to solve. That's why it's important for us to come together, because each of us has a part. None of us has it all. But once we come together like this, once we can come together technologically and begin to share, and we're already doing that too. We have all of these varieties of call-in shows, study al-Islam, all of these things, and it's just rich. I just sit down sometimes, I just go on Facebook and I start putting up stuff. I start reading stuff. I started, oh, wow. So it's there. What the institution does is preserve that. It preserves that beyond our lifetime. It preserves it because it is written down and documented. And it can be used for, if we say Imam Muhammad's language is going to influence the world for 1,000 years, it will be here for 1,000 years. And your contribution will add to it. The mistake of the traditional schools is, I don't think it was deliberate, they fell into dogma. So that other men after the prophet became the standard by which we judge what others are compelled to do dogmatically. The mind is a tricky thing. It can be very regressive sometimes. And the reason I'm encouraging like this is because we can't fall into that. We want to be free thinkers. Now, we want to be free thinkers in a different sense than the world recommends, but we do want to be free thinkers. The word academics, this summer when we had our workshop, we realized that we're really redefining academics. I should point out to you that it is the possession of the common soul, because it's the fourth level of the ascension. So that's why I told you, I'm trying to tell you, never be intimidated. That's right. The word means a grove of trees. That's one of its meanings. Or a park-like setting. Now, there's a lot to say about that. But something that is somewhere between the natural world and something that has been cultivated deliberately, like you do your lawn in a very nice place. And it's to say that the two should be connected. The natural world and the man-made world, the social world, should be connected. And we should respect that. That's clear in Imam Muhammad's language. Academics has been pictured as an ivory tower, a place of pure science, absolute fact, and philosophy, elevated above the common person, the common interest, the black stinky mud of nature, natural influences, and public life. You're seeing that in the world right now with everything that's going on. If you understand how the world is constructed, it's constructed with the science that comes from academics. That's the practical stuff. But we know that really what rules is the scriptural knowledge that is kept or hidden from the common person. We're the only group of people that I know that are openly sharing it, and sharing it freely. That's just because we have nothing. We were deprived of everything. So how better for Allah to reestablish it in people? To reclaim its original sense and proper use as part of science, academics accumulate science. That's why you have all the departments. They can go there and you can find the particular things that you need. But science is the lost property of the believer. The idea of academics has been redefined as a potential in every human soul. This is a kind of logic, and it's a kind of circular logic. And it has an element that none of the logic of philosophy follows. And it's in the advice Imam Muhammad gave to us. So here's the bridge again between his scriptural knowledge, our scriptural knowledge and understanding, and the academic sense and the scientific sense of things. He says, first consult the Quran and the life of Muhammad the Prophet. After we've gotten the needed material from those two sources, we're created by Allah to make good use of our thoughts, our own ideas, our imagination. And we know imagination can be captured. That's another lesson we don't have time to talk about. I'm sure you all get these things. I just have to say them. Yeah, your imagination can be captured. That's what they do in the public life to our children. That's why they're not here. Their imagination has been captured. They come in through your emotionality, but they really capture they capture your imagination through what you like or dislike. They create that like or dislike, and then you begin to imagine a world that's not real. They do. Hard to resist. We should make use of our thoughts, our own ideas, our imagination skills and resources. That's where the academic world traditionally stops. We don't. Test what our minds produce, and that which is not approved by Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet, reject. I understand that Imam Qasim already said what I want to say to you. I told him I didn't need to say anything else. Is that that's why we want you all to share with us as the most serious students of Quran and of the Tafsir of Imam Muhammad. We want you to share your insights with us. We don't know exactly how yet. We don't know how to compile them yet. We have to have some technological means of compiling. We're investigating those sources now. There are facilities that will allow us to compile those sources, to organize them, where all of us can draw on everything that this community makes available in terms of progress of our language construction. And Imam Qasim, he was in Detroit with us at the education conference in July, and he showed me some of his work and stuff you did 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and it's what we need right now. It's what our teachers need now. It's what will help us to progress our education system and get it back on track right now. Almost everything that I share with you, most of you know I'm one of those people that I value the ability to follow in myself. I know the value of it, having also had the responsibility of leadership. And it's a lesson that's sometimes hard earned or hard to learn. In fact, they don't say that the best leaders are also the best followers for any reason. So, you know, I'm always looking for something Imam Muhammad said. And when I have a thought, I will usually go and I'll find it in something that he's already written. And this is one thing that he gave, and he didn't give it like this. They asked him what was the structure of curriculum, and he had already said it. It was in a lecture he did in Washington to some teachers, and he referred to it. But it has a much more powerful application in terms of how we can apply it to how knowledge is organized and how knowledge is related to reality. The spiritual sciences, the social sciences, the material sciences. The spiritual sciences from the heavens above. The material sciences from the creation below. And the social sciences in the middle. Our main problem is the social sciences. What Shaitan did was he cut us off from the spiritual sciences. You know that if you just, I know your students are Imams, so I know. And he cut us off from material sciences. He cut us off from both. Then he constructed a world of his own design, a social world, a man-made world. So we have no reference to the reality of creation. Our feet, we are not grounded in reality. We are almost there, but we have another step to go. And then we have now the insights of the Quran and the tafsir of Imam Muhammad that is a guide of absolute truth to check it by. There's no competition. This is something I got from Imam Bashir at the Midwest. He said there's two books. The books of Revelation and the book of creation. And we have so much from the book of Revelation that we can just, I don't know where it could end because of what has already happened. As it says in Surah 78, it is as if the heavens have opened like doors. But we should also remind ourselves that if all the trees were pens, and all the oceans were ink, so I say again, you know, when you get old, one thing you realize from a lot of experiences, not only your own health, but like some of the brothers have said, about every other week I'm looking at somebody's grave. That's a humbling thing. It cures you of all those fantasies of youth. Here's another insight. The society that God wants us to have is a society that is protected by all of us. Hence the saying of the prophet in Arabic, Yadullaha alal Juma'ah. Translated, God's control is on the whole people. He doesn't control the people by one person. He controls the people by using all of them. That's what we have. It has to go out. If it comes in to our pocket or our heart or our head because of the gravity of our ego. And it begins to weigh us down. That's why charity is in anything that you possess that is of value. And I think especially knowledge for people who are deprived of it. Here's another thing that goes back to a lesson learned. 3 levels of work. Dr. Nordine, this was something that was given to us during the monitoring team sessions. Working on ourselves, working together. That's what we're doing now. That's why I'm looking at the recipe for the social problems that we have, and I can clearly see the progress because we're doing number 2. And so that means we worked on number 1. And we've gotten to the point now where we're prepared for the work of working together. And then working for the cause, which is bigger than we are. Absolutely, it is it is eternal, not just historic. And you can go back to Imam Muhammad's lecture on the time clock of God, the time clock of man, I think was in Atlanta. He gave a very extensive lecture on that. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. I think we already recognize what this picture means. I think we've seen it enough to know what it means. And I think we should reflect on the fact that Imam Muhammad started out giving us this picture language from the beginning to tell us the kind of leadership that we should follow. And I hear that. It's one of the major things that we've overcome because the model of leadership we have in the world is not the one we can follow. We can't follow it. And for most of us, we've seen it, so we've learned it through experience, so we imitate it. And we have to educate ourselves out of it. And we're really already doing that. We've gone from this regimentation to now appreciating the character or the uswa of the prophet and his character and his abilities as a leader. I just put these up here just to remind us. Imam Talib, can you recognize those people? That's Dr. Yassin up in the top corner there. And I just love for us to reflect on the past and to see where we are now and to appreciate just how far we've come. This is the ascension, and you can see how this is from the bottom up because that's the way we grow. and it was given to us by Imam Kashif and Imam Qasim Sharif. May Allah grant him a reward in paradise. Back in 2004, and it was the beginning of our work. And as our work has unfolded, it has become more and more profound in terms of the implications of what it says. This is from a 1999 lecture. All of it is based on a lecture of a meeting of Imams in 1999. I've forgotten where it was. And it's, I think, like 4 or 5 parts, but you can refer to that. And many of you have done lectures on it. I've seen some of your lectures. In our work with teachers, we start here, and we're using this to build lessons on the academic level, because that's what teachers begin their lessons. We're then able to develop our social spaces and our approach to the sensitivities of our students, and also the approach that we have to their thinking based on this. And this is not, as some people would think, something that is particular to the individuals, both something that is in the individual and also in the social life. And the critical place for it is in this, how we address the social life, how we share this job, as we said, because Allah's hand is on the group. So this is group. The social is always more powerful than the individual. And as we are elevated, we all can go up together because we're elevated socially. Culture is the means for elevating ourselves socially. It's man's construction, and as we construct the world, if we are consistent and deliberate in our reflecting on what Allah has put in our creation as individuals and the creation of the material world, and then we follow the guidance to check ourselves, then we're on the road to success. I could give you, there are lots of applications of this. We can see in this also where the other people stopped. I already mentioned that. I'm not going to stop there. Okay. I think I've said enough about that. One of the implications of what I've already shared with you has to do with particular type of leadership, and those who study leadership, and we have some serious people who understand leadership, and it shows in the way that you work. And all of you, all of us, the older ones of us, were soldiers, so we know the power of leadership, and we know something about how it should work. But one of the types of leadership that doesn't get talked about enough is what we call task-oriented or service leadership. And what it means is that the task-oriented leaders focus on getting the necessary task or series of tasks organized in order to achieve a goal. That's what was done for this meeting. Task leaders come forward from circles of social organization for specific purposes that require the ability to meet those goals. Your individual talent or ability is the primary qualification, and every person has a unique role of leadership in that respect. Task leaders define the goals, the roles, the plans, and put structures in place to organize and monitor progress toward the specific goal. So sometimes we're the follower. If the plumber comes to my house, my brother-in-law's a plumber, then I have to pay attention to what he says. I'm not the boss. I can't fix them pipes. Whatever the task is, the person who is central to that task, who should be responsible for that task, would be the one who knows that particular thing. So that's why, as leaders, we can delegate things. And why, as leaders, also sometimes where we have to go and do the most undesirable task. That's set an example too. When other people balk, don't argue. Go do it yourself. And my Imam will tell you, when you set out to do something, you're in trouble. Just because you're doing something. You don't have to. We know how that one works. How much time have I got? Okay, that's just to say of what I've already said, that in that context of Allah's hand being on the group, we also have our own, each is a direction or goal to which Allah turns him. So we have our own responsibility. That's just say what I said about task orientation. So you have to study the people that you work with. You have to find out what their talents and abilities are. Sometimes they're hidden. Sometimes people are too shy to come forward and to put themselves on the line, because when you are out front, as the Imams are, everybody's at your back. And sometimes you don't know who's got your back. Sometimes it may not be anybody. I wanted to share this with you because I think there's another part that has to do with what we said too, than the part we ought to put the emphasis on. He's talking about shura. It has to act upon what it gets from the whole community. And that's what I tell the shura. I say, how can you act as a shura, and we don't know what the people want? Now, the part that's missing, we have a shura council, and we conduct our business, when really what we should do is, as we know, it's supposed to be the resourceful people, that's the term Imam Muhammad used, who will get together and decide that issue. But I would suggest to you there's another step that satisfies what he's saying here. And that is, those resourceful people should go to the common people. They should go to the public. They should talk to someone. I know that because there's someone in our masjid that does that. He goes around, he talks to people, and then he goes around, he tells you what he's feeling. I don't think he even has an office, but he spreads the word. He gets the ideas, he gets the sentiments of the people, so he knows what the people are thinking, and then you can get together, you can go in your meeting room, and you can make a decision. Now, of course, there are exceptions to that very often, and we know what those exceptions are. I'm going backwards here, man, Kashif. What's happening? Oh, turned it upside down. Convening. Language carries with it emotional baggage. I'll just give you one example. When we say committee, it means those people on that committee are the only ones who are committed. And they're likely to be the only ones who are going to do the work. And they're going to and everybody else is going to look at them real funny. That's why we've avoided this with our education work. We've avoided calling it a committee. We've used different terms because we want the social space to open up. We want it to increase. We want more people to come into that social space and take on their role of leadership in whatever the issue is. In education, that role is for every one of us, not just imams, for everyone. So convening, convention, to come together or assemble, usually for some public purpose. A cause to assemble or convoke. That's what our convener does. Some people don't think of that as leadership in the sense of how we want leadership to be. But it's in my mind entirely consistent with the kind of leadership Imam Muhammad was promoting in our community from the beginning. Facilitator. I just, where's Imam McCauley? I just pulled up his website just to look at his stuff on the Center for Human Excellence, and the school is called Medina Institute, and then they have another thing they set up. It's a wonderful example of how to create organizational structure that fits this model. Yeah, so facilitate, to make easy, render less difficult. Careful planning to facilitate any kind of work, to assist the progress of. And that's the term he uses. Okay, good. Coordinate, to set in order or arrange. A person or thing that coordinates. The details of organizing this conference Imam Saifullah. It's a lot of work, a lot of detail, attention to detail. In the Army, that's critical, because you forget one little thing, it's still with me, get one little thing and you die or somebody else dies, because you got one little simple thing. When we facilitate, we make it easy for others because we brought those things together that are necessary to accomplish the task. Collaborate, co-labor, just what it says. To work together, together, so co-labor. Agenda, things to be done, items of business to be done at a meeting. We can go to our congregations for that too. We can go and ask them, what are the issues? Do we want to address these issues? How should we address these issues? That's how our work has come about in education as far as progress. We started out with what Imam Kashif and his brothers in Hartford gave us. And this region is wonderful in working together. They really love each other. And you can tell it when they're together. And I've been coming up here for years. It's easier because they're closer together in proximity, so they can go up and down the road all the time. On the West Coast, they're just 400, 500 miles apart. That's difficult. But we can bridge that gap with technology. That's one of the ways forward. Community, shared by all or many, meaning fellowship, community of relations or feelings, a body of fellows or fellow townsmen. This is a term we use for our education work to be inclusive, consortium. Oops. Yeah, fellowship, participation, society. Loosely organized. I put this in here for one reason, and you can reflect on it. And something I've been thinking about and reflecting on, because this is another definition of culture, and I already hinted at it. And it's related to the four birds or the four rivers, all the four institutions of life. But it's one that I think we haven't kind of gotten the gist of. What is culture? Knowledge established in certain order. Knowledge taking certain patterns and forming certain orders. So not just in the sense of entertainment, or the way we dress, or the food we eat. It's ideas organized in a certain order. I don't have time to go into this, but Imam Muhammad, and you hear this from religious leaders all the time, he always said he had a suspicion about organized religion. Well, we need to reflect on what religion is. It's sincerity. That's not in an institution. We can't put it in an institution and expect people to share it just because we have an institution. That has to come from the person's heart. They have to give themselves to that through their own faith. So that's why we have to be careful about locking things down or institutionalizing them, as it has happened to the people in the East, our brothers in the East. They've locked it down. So you do it this way or do it that way, and it's all superficial. It has nothing to do with what's going on in terms of the person's spirit or their intellect. And now, what should culture respect? Everything in our culture should respect our religion. These other things will take care of themselves once we have that. That quality has to be in the individual, so that's why we promote the individual. We promote the individual's spiritual growth and their intellectual growth. For that reason, the proof of that is Hajj. The proof that the sincerity has to be in each person to give themselves to God willingly for the world to be as it should be, as God wants. Let's see here. This is from Imam Zarif, and I mentioned this. He's sitting back there. And Imam Kashif, I don't think you all have met. Okay. Yeah, I won't go into this, but he has a very powerful lesson on this. It goes into all the functions of the intellect and thinking. And I guess it was created maybe 10 or 15 years ago. But again, we have to share these things. I'm going to skip that. Let's see if I can get to one other thing. It's just about keeping things. Okay, we talked about that. We're already doing this too. we're organized in circles of influence. We are here because our vision has come from our local masjids, which many of you represent. You bring it to your sections, and we all have the same vision because we got it from Imam Muhammad, and the seal of the prophets, and the book of Revelation. So, and we'll differ, but we shouldn't differ that much. So then we have from that a national vision. What we're working on now is a sharing process. We want to encourage you to bring what you have locally. We can share it in the sections, as we do. I know some of you do. I've sat in different sections in the meetings. And then we have a national sharing process. That's grassroots development from the bottom up. Okay, and then we have someone who does just what has happened here. That is, they brought us all together to do that. Here's the vision of social life that we want. I don't have time to do all this, but Imam Muhammad said the body in religious life, especially in Islam, is when we see all of the people, not our personal body. Now there's a reason for that, and it has to do with what we call individualism, which is a big problem in our society. It's why our children have walked away. They see themselves as having their own life, their own choices, their own prerogatives, and they don't want to hear what you say. And I've begun to realize from dealing with my grandchildren now, they're even worse than our children. They don't even want to have a conversation. You're trying to give them something. Oh, that's okay, I got it. So who is the imam in this body? Every group comes to have their own imam. Is there a social hierarchy? No, especially among the males, we're all the same, dressed the same, have to behave the same. And we're equal in that situation because we got that two little pieces of cloth wrapped around us and deprives us of our muscles. Is there centralized authority? Allah, who has also given us the invitation and whose authority we are under. Individual. Indivisible from not or opposite of. And it means both inside and also not in some cases. But we know that we have parts inside and they can be separated. We should not be divided inside, but the society not only divides us from each other, it also divides us inside. And Imam McCauley is telling me I'm out of time. I don't have time to go into this. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Allahu Akbar.
Man, I hate that you do that, man. How you give me this job, you man, Bashir? We have one final presentation in the educational development segment, and this is with Imam Kashif, Abdul-Karim. Now, Imam Kashif, who is our final presentation for the educational development team.
Assalamu alaikum. With Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. I'm going to quickly go in because I know I don't have a lot of time. Inshallah. The title of the preface is Reimaging. Can the gems of the past be introduced to a modern day generation? First of all, we'd like to define the term imagination. Imagination, first of all, it means the faculty of action of forming new ideas or images or concepts to external objects not present to the senses. Imagination, it deals with the action of new ideas and images. So it's really talking about developing new ideas, images that's not present, to be creative or being resourceful It means also the idea of maybe using technology to bring about new ideas, new images, etc. Technology is often given to workers or chances of using their imagination, the part of the mind that imagine things, to be creative in that sense. This is the idea of imagination. And this is sort of what the immigrants did when they wanted to develop a new image for themselves in America. They went from having an image of being terrorists and this type of image that was being given to create an image like this. They went from developing this type of image to an image like this, but being creative and developing different types of resources by using technology, by creating images that was like this type of images to images like this, but maybe creating different types of images, creating images of themselves in that way. By being creative and being able to use different types of resources, so that we will be creative and being resourceful to the people, by being in shelters, by being involved in scouting, by being involved in other type of ways, by being resourceful to the people, right? And by using technology, by being resourceful in that way, by being able to use social media, by using new ideas that's not present in the way that we're currently doing things, being creative or being resourceful. This is what imagination means. And the way that we're using imagination is by using things that we're not currently using, right? Using social media to get out the message, by using thinking. This is what imagination means. Using things that are not present in the way that we're currently doing things. You know, we have to deal with what's called Muslim futurists, or what is called New Age Muslims. According to the latest data from this report, digital and social media are playing a vital role in engaging a group of people that researchers are calling Muslim futurists. Individuals aged 15 to 35 who are particularly eager for brands to communicate to them in a truly relevant way. They are young, tech-savvy, brand-conscious, worldly, and vocal. They feel connected to a multinational audience by being part of the Ummah, the global Muslim nation. Another report conducted by WPP called this group New Age Muslim, consumers who are religious but don't expect others to conform to religious practices. They believe in societal progression, female empowerment, and gender equality. They are pro-media and recognize the advantages of the internet. They also are very interested in trends in general, but fashion and beauty in particular. There's this new group of Muslims out there who are called Muslim Futures and New Age Muslims. They're part of this generation that are out there. We need to know who they are. But there's a conflict with this group, right? We know the conflict. We have one group that believes in this picture and another group that we're dealing with in terms of scientists, right? We have science and we have this picture of religion that's also being put in this way. There tends to be a conflict. But we have to, again, reimagine. Because there shouldn't be a conflict between religion and science. There shouldn't be a conflict. But the way that it's being portrayed means that we have to rethink or reimagine the picture that's been portrayed for us to be able to figure it out. We have to reimagine. And what does reimagine mean? It means to reinterpret or imaginatively rethink. It means we have to reconstruct or remake or recycle or rejuvenate the thinking process that's going on out there so that there's not a conflict with the way that people are seeing the religion. We're seeing science. We're seeing the way things are being perceived. We have to reimagine. So the key words is, again, reinterpret and rethink. What does this mean? This means the way that we perceive and see things. You heard the expression, right? Is the glass half full or half empty? This comes in the way that we perceive things. It depends on where you're standing. Look at these fish, right? If you're looking down in the glass, right, you're very pessimistic. Why are you always talking about the glass is half empty? You know, because you're on the side that's drinking the water, everything's good for you. But if you're on the side of the glass where you striving for air all the time, you're going to see the glass as, half empty. Your position, the way that you're seeing things, is going to be very different. So you're going to see the glass is half full or half empty, depending on your circumstances. So depending on what stand or what position you take, you're going to have to reinterpret or rethink things or change your position of things. So you're going to have to think or rethink. Think again about something such as a policy, of course, expression in order to make changes to it. Like this example here. Depending on where you stand or position you take, it's going to be the way that you see things, right? See this here? Depending on where you stand, no matter what you tell this person, they're going to see number 6. No matter where this person stands, they're going to see position number 9, right? Regardless of where they stand, their qiyam, their position, there is going to be number 9. They're going to be number 6. No matter what you take, they're not going to change until you get them to move from where they're standing, what their position is. They're going to continue taking that position. They're not going to change. They're going to stay thinking that particular way. They're not going to change what they say. They're not going to change what they do. They're going to stay in that particular way. They're not going to change the way they think until you get them to move to where you are, to see things or deal with things the way that you do, until you can get them to rethink. So let's think about why we think the way that we think. Okay? Why do we think the way that we think? Because we have been placed in a certain language environment that has touched us a certain way over a period of time, that caused us to think, that caused us to stand, that caused us to be in the position that we are in, because we've been touched in a certain way over a certain period of time. Let's think about what's attracted us to, as African Americans, to the thing that touched us to come into the nation of Islam. Like when we came into the nation of Islam, or we came into Islam, the fruits of Islam, discipline, brotherhood, drilling, uniformity, these type of things attracted us to bring us into this particular movement. The ideas of black nationalism, black religion, black culture, black studies, separation, the University of Islam, these kind of things, of being black and black first, and all these kind of things, ideas attracted us. The ideas as women, the MGT, discipline, the sisterhood, and training, and the food, and the recipes, the respect, the family life, these kind of things attracted us. They brought us into this idea of the nation. They attracted us, and they brought us into this feeling, this attraction, brought us into this. They attracted us. They touched us. They made us take the position, the feelings that we had. Then we had other things that was going on that were gems in a particular period. We had the fruit, we had the general orders, yeah, they gave us a discipline, but we had things such as the restrictive laws of Islam. And we looked at those and saw that there was things that told us that we should have certain positions and don't eat pork and take these particular positions about the way that we should treat one another, etc. We remember these positions. They were good things of this particular period, things that we should hold on to, right? They were good. They were positive in a particular period. We shouldn't throw those out. They were good. And then Imam Muhammad comes along in 1975. He made us then rethink all of those things, and then he added more to us. We kept all those things that were good in our spirit because we were touched by these things. We continued to be touched, and those things still kept us in our spirit and in our nature. It still helped us in our qiyam, in the position of how we stood. And how we said we still kept our discipline and our sense of brotherhood, and we still kept our uniformity, and we still kept our sense of culture and our sense of self and the way that we felt about each other. We still kept our spirit and our discipline and all those kind of respect for family and all those things. We kept those things, right? We kept those understandings that was connected to the good and the restrictive law and all those things. We kept all those good things as Imam Muhammad encouraged us and began to introduce us new ideas, etc. As he began to give us an interpretation and a unique approach to seeing the Quran now for ourselves. He began to develop for us a work relationship with our dear Prophet Muhammad. We found direction in a clear road that gave us a map to paradise directly. We learned to develop our own opinions using the Quran and the Sunnah without cultural influences from anybody else. We developed our own terminology to express the Quran and the Hadith. We were taught and learned religious independence. We took on the challenges of asking why to the scholars. We didn't have any problem with asking the scholars, who were all these learned men. We didn't have any problems with saying, well, why do you say the things that you say? We had the courage to do that, right? We were taught not to be blind followers. We discovered there was a need for a new school of thought or a new pattern of thinking in America. Arabic was introduced as the language of the Quran. Not the Arabic in the newspapers, but the Arabic of the Quran. We expanded our historical references to include the Sirah of Prophet Muhammad and world history. Not just black studies or world studies, but the Sirah of Prophet Muhammad and world history. We expanded our history. We were free from the psychological and mental slavery and from all forms of oppressors, even from Muslims who were oppressors. We were given big freedom, not just from white people, but we were given freedom from Muslims as well, who were oppressing us even too. The concept of New Africa was developed. Clara Muhammad schools were developed. Muslim journals was expanded and developed. Interfaith relationships developed. We could go on and on with these gifts that Imam Muhammad gave us. Patriotism, American patriotism was developed. All of these things were developed. This was our unity. This was the locking branch that was given to us, as gems, from the nation to what Imam Muhammad gave us, to all of these things. This was the locking branch that gave us the thing that built us, that established us. These were the gems that made us, gave us our qiyam, that gave us our position, that gave us our stand. This was what filled our cup. This was our Islamic tools. This was our Islamic identity. This was who we are. This was the position that established us of who we are today. This is who you are. You are that miracle that was established that made you stand seeing number 9. You are that person who sees things that particular way because you are created in that language environment that can only see things like number 9. You can't see the way people from Morocco see it. You can't see it the way people from Saudi Arabia see it. You can't see it any other way except for the way that you have been taught to see it in a language environment that has been given to you from the time period, from then to now, from that particular resources, through this journey. This is why we see it that way. This is the way our cup has been filled. This is our life. This is our perspective. This is our language environment. Do you see why we are the way we are? This is our gem. This is our gem. We are that shining jewel. We are that miracle. But then something happened. Imam Muhammad returned to Allah, September 9, 2008. And something happened to us. As a community, many of us as a community went into mourning. As a community. I'm not saying just individually, but I'm saying as a community. Many of us as a community went into mourning. Many of us became divided. Many of us started lacking certainty, didn't know what to do. Just got confused, didn't know what to do, just got into a state of confusion. Started getting complacent, started sitting on our hands, waiting for somebody else to tell us what to do. Stop going to the Quran, Imam Kashif. Just sat on our hands, just waiting for somebody else to tell us what to do. So what has this led to? It led to many of our masajid closing. This led to people rewriting our narratives. This led to a lack of upfront positions and leaderships. We won't let, look, they wouldn't even let any imam, locally or nationally or anyone, have a position, to have a say or have an opinion. No one can say anything about how we feel about anything. It led to following anybody except for ourselves. Anybody could have a position except for us. You turn on the TV, it's always somebody else other than us having an opinion. We became Frankenstein monsters. Anybody else could be our head except for us. You can have an Arab head, a Morocco head, an Indian head, or anybody else head. Some of us even have Christian heads and Jewish heads. But you refuse to have Imam Muhammad's head, our community head, the tafsir of our community head. You had anybody else's head except ours. And we lost a generational continuity. We lost the continuity of our youth and our millennials, and see his hands going up. So we found our youth being pulled into many different ways. We found some of our youth being pulled into churches away from the masajid. We found them being pulled because of their fun with their friends and with their peers, because of music, because they wanted to fit in with performing with their peers. So we have to find ways to make Islam attractive. We like our Eid carnivals and our Eid events, and we found ways to take them to Eid programs, big events like these. So they came out and they had fun, so they could see Islam as fun. We find ways where we have this conflict where we see that many of our young people, they want to go to college and become professionals, but there's no jobs out there. But we want our young people to, in our understanding, we want our young people not to just get professionals, but our concept is we want our young people to also become entrepreneurs. So become educated, but learn, read, study, get knowledge of self, realize that knowledge is power, get educated, but also teach and get your own businesses. This is the tool that we've always had, but we need to encourage our young people in that way. That's our resource, that's our old skill that we need to bring back to our young people, and that's a tool we specialize in, but we forfeited it. We gave up that gem, we need to bring that gem back. There's also this conflict that's going on in our communities with our young people. This attraction to Malcolm X versus the Shabazz personality. There's many people in our community who understand the black nationalist Malcolm X, but they don't understand the humanist Malcolm X. There's a big concentration on the black nationalists. They know this Malcolm, but they don't know this Malcolm. We need to focus on getting people to know this Malcolm as well as they know this Malcolm. America needs to understand Islam because this is the one religion that erases from its society's race problems. They need to know this Malcolm too. The Black Lives Movement is active in America, right? This is something that we as Muslims in our community should be involved with. Our young people are involved in, and we could be active in this because we're the best at it. This is something we should be leading and working in and active in because our young people are. They will be coming to us for advice. We could be in it. We're losing that generation because of many things they're involved in, and we don't know how to stay attached. There are Muslim rappers, etc., and I'm going to go through this quickly. These are Muslim rappers who are Muslim, who are deeply involved in Islam. But we don't know them. Some of us don't. Q-Tip, Lupe Fiasco, Freeway, other rappers, Mos Def. These are Muslim rappers who are our young people know them. But if you don't know them, that's a problem because our young people do, and they're turning to them for advice. They're turning to them. They're heroes per se for them. You need to know them. You need to know them. They don't talk about negative about Muslim rappers because they're admiring them. There are also Muslims who are young people who are involved in sports and athletics, etc., who are doing great things. We need to be encouraging them who are doing great things, who are also part of our community, not ostracizing them because they are Muslim doing great things, winning gold medals, but because they are doing things that are like wearing shorts, etc., we're ostracizing them. They can't come to our community. They're doing negative things, etc. They're not Muslim, and we're beating them up. I don't get us. They're winning gold medals. They are champions, and we're beating them up because they want a gold medal in shorts. I don't know. We got Muslims who are building relationship with each other. We got Muslims who don't look like us, who's breaking down barriers, who are from Brooklyn, who's fighting our causes right in our community. We need to be developing a relationship with people who are working with us, who are close to us. They're second and third generation Muslims. They're down with us. We need to be down with them too. Look, Muslims are involved with fashion. These are Muslims in our community. They build it with their own fashion styles. But yet, young Muslims are coming up with new styles, but they're confronted with this. These are Muslims, they're wearing clothing, etc. But they're saying, oh, these styles, this is the wrong way, they can't do this, they can't do that, they can't do this, they can't do that. That's all haram. That's all forbidden. 2 minutes. These are all haram. They can't do this, they can't do that. But they're trying. These are Muslims. These are our Muslim sisters. They're trying to be Muslim. They're young people. They're trying to express themselves in the ways that they can. They're trying. They're still trying, right? They're not running from the deen. They're trying to be part of the deen. They're trying to express themselves. They're still trying to keep their salat, right? But you're running away from the deen because you're nitpicking them. We got to find a way to get past this. This is their regular wear. You got to be a little patient, right? Our family values, they still are deep. Look, they may have left the master, but they deeply have it there. Like Imam Muhammad said, we got to teach to their DNA. They might have left the master, but it's still in their DNA. They're still Muslim. Their seeds are still Muslim. They're coming back. It's in their roots. It's planted. They Muslim. They're coming back. They coming, right? It's their family values. It's still there. And we can't let family pressure. Don't beat them up. It's coming back. It's in their genes. Okay? The Muslim young people are involved and engaged in politics and social justice. And if we're not involved, they're going to laugh at us. They're going to think that we're not involved. Okay? The challenges we face when our Muslim youth do come back, he's telling me I got to stop. I'm almost done. When our young people do come back, and if they do come back, we have to find out how to present Islam to them with a modern voice without changing the religion. Okay? We have to be willing to change what we have been doing. We have to be willing. We have to be willing to change what we have been doing. In other words, we have to be open up to social media. We have to be used to technology. We have to be willing to do PowerPoint. We have to be open to the technology, go online. We have to be willing to get trained to do things that's going to be open to what young people are interested in. If you're not open-minded to use technology, they're not going to want to be involved with you. You have to be willing to give youth opportunity and responsibility. You have to be welcome a new process. You have to allow youth to feel comfortable in the community. Allah is a progressive God who likes to give men new things. What was good in the past was right in the past. What's good for the present is also good for the present. And remember that Allah is always good. Okay? Remember that Allah is always good. Pray to Allah that He bless me to speed through this. And that you was able to grasp the word of
Alhamdulillah, El-Amin. Thank you so much for that, Kashif.
Aren't these some dynamic
Yes. Wasn't like, man, we don't want them to stop. Alhamdulillah. Oh boy, the John Coltrane's and Charlie Parker of Palestine. Well, we thank you so much for your attention. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you be able to get something out of this, and I'm sure we all did. We have to stop now. But we have a couple of announcements before we break for prayer. Last year, at our conference, we tape recorded everything and video recorded everything. Just like we're doing with this one. And I actually shot that. She showed me Juma'ah yesterday. It's already on Facebook.
My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I do business as Light Source Productions. I provide professional services in the area of strategic video communications. First, what we do is we help you craft your message using what I call the rule of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. We do event documentation, content acquisition, full-scale productions, editing, and of course distribution through our social media television network. And with social media, video is more important now than it has ever been. Whether you're talking big business, small business, nonprofit, church, or just an individual. Let's say you're planning an event, a wedding, whatever the case may be. But let's say a big event, but no video. You spent all this time, all these hours to put this event on, and maybe 100, 200 people attend the event. But more important than that is that thousands could attend by watching it on social media. But of course, you don't think about this until after the event is over. You can't afford not to capture it for social media. And despite what people think, I am affordable. Give me a call. Let's plan your next video project and share it with the world on my social media television network. I promise you that you will have the attention of one person, me.